Folks, over time I have met with a lot of different church groups, and I find one thing always helps out. If I go ahead and tell people, if you can't hear me, throw something, or wave your hand. I'll wave back. But I do want to thank you for the fine meal this evening. It was mighty good to be with everybody. Just a lot of real pleasure to talk to some folks I haven't seen in a while, and just get to have a lot of good fun being able to meet with people again and be able to talk with you. I wish I could come here and tell you that the world was a simple place. I wish I could come here and tell you that there's no need to be concerned. Nobody's ever going to do anything that might harm this church or anybody in it. But I can't say that. Instead, I believe I'm serving you well by telling you how things really are. There was a time when it was a little bit rare that a church would incorporate. In fact, about 30 years ago, I talked to the chancellor of our United Methodist Church. That's the head attorney that represents our western part of North Carolina. He and I had a long talk about incorporating churches, and we were kind of up in the air as to whether it was a good thing to do or not. Because if you do incorporate, what you wind up with is a lot of churches don't take it seriously that they have incorporated. They don't act like a corporation. They don't follow the rules of being incorporated. And it's very, very easy then, just a short time down the road, to find a lawsuit coming against you. The corporation fails, but you've relied on being a corporation, and you don't have the protection that you thought you did. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about what's going on. And first of all, keep in mind that you have people from all over the country, all over the world, moving into this area all the time. Everybody knows it. We all hear about people coming from every place, and we meet them all over. A lot of those folks are, unfortunately, looking for deep pockets. There are people out there that like lawsuits as an extra way to make money. Even one of my civic clubs I'm a member of in Concord got sued a few years ago. And as we investigated what was going on, we found out that the folks that sued us traveled around the country suing civic clubs. And I know that comes as a shock to everybody. It sure did to us. We're trying to help some people, and they come around and bring a lawsuit against us. But it does concern me that in the event a civil lawsuit should ever come against this church as an unincorporated association, that the individual members of the church are liable for that judgment that would come against the unincorporated church. Now, keep in mind that incorporating means that you form a legal entity which is your official church. It owns the church building, it owns your land, any vehicles you might have, that sort of thing. But it does not change how you operate. It doesn't change what you believe. It doesn't change the Sunday morning service, anything else. But it does mean that the church is a corporation. And because of that, if a judgment comes against the church, that judgment can only apply against the assets of that incorporated church. What we do is form the corporation. You put the land, buildings, any other assets that you have in that corporate entity. And then the judgment comes against the corporate entity. Only the things a church proper owns would stand good for that debt amount. Your individual assets, your personal bank accounts, personal homes, would not stand good for the lawsuit. That makes sense to everybody. That's really what we're here talking about. Folks, I will tell you this, it's not a matter of will it ever happen. It will happen. People are suing churches more and more these days. I'm a member of Epworth United Methodist Church in Concord, and we are well aware that other Methodist churches have been sued around the state. we do keep up with that sort of thing. And again, I just wish so much that I could tell you we had a different kind of world today. And unfortunately, what happens is your big civil lawsuit because someone who comes here for the Lord's Acre sale trips and falls, hurts themselves, frankly, they get hurt in the parking lot. Somebody hits them with the car. Any number of things can happen. Also, sexual harassment claims are quickly rising as a real problem for churches. Child molestation claims are quickly rising and becoming a real problem for churches. And folks, it is entirely possible for any church, no matter how heavily you're insured, to wind up that the debt against you, the lawsuit, the judgment against you, would be greater than any liability insurance that you might have. Now, having told you what an incorporation is, having told you what we do to incorporate the church, and what we do to protect the individual members, I will say this. You do have to be careful to conduct all your business as a corporation going forward. And that's something I will help you with and help make sure that you have in your scheduling, that sort of thing, the necessary safeguards to be sure that you always act like a corporation. Let me give you a good example. Let's say you were to go down to some car dealership and buy a new car. Salesman comes out and talks to you. You sign all the paperwork. Nowhere in your mind do you have it in your thought process that you're buying that car from that individual salesman. You know that you're buying from the corporation, from the dealership. And sure enough, when you see the paperwork, it's all in the name of the dealership. The car salesman signs as a representative of that dealership. You look up at the signage, everything you see around is for that corporation. That's the same way the church is going to be set up in the future, letting all the public know that when they deal with you, they deal with a corporation. And we will have to work with you to make sure that happens. But I would ask you to let me know what's on your mind now. Granted, you're not changing how you worship. You're not changing what you believe. You're setting up a way to protect yourselves and protect your individual members of the church. I'm giving you an overall view of what happens with the corporation. What's on your mind? What questions do you have about this process of incorporating or how you act like a corporation in the future?
How do you act like a corporation?